The economy stinks. It's true that President Obama took office in the midst of a downturn and inherited an economic mess. Heck, it's impossible for us to forget since he mentions it almost every day. But after almost 4 years as president, he has clearly failed to deliver a recovery. My name is Audra Chu, and I'm narrating this Economics 101 video from the Center for Freedom and Prosperity. In it, I'll explain the dismal record of Obamanomics. Before we get into just how badly the president's policies have failed, let's look at what he has tried to do so far. Almost immediately after taking office, the president passed an $800 billion so-called stimulus. A previous Center for Freedom and Prosperity video explained how this program was rife with waste, fraud, and abuse, and didn't help the economy. In July of 2009, the president signed his Cash for Clunkers bill, which was supposed to stimulate the economy by providing incentives to increase automobile sales. In reality, people just bought new cars earlier than they otherwise would have to take advantage of the program, and it had no effect on employment or other economic measures. 2 University of Delaware professors found that, even when factoring in potential environmental improvements and better gas mileage, the program had a net cost of $2,000 for each vehicle sold, and thus made the nation $1.4 billion poorer. In March of 2010, the HIRE Act was passed, one of the so-called jobs bills, which has not had any demonstrable effect on jobs. To make matters worse, the bill was paid for with a pernicious piece of legislation known as the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, which imposes such onerous costs on foreign banks that many are dropping their U.S. customers and leaving the American market, costing the economy a significant source of investment capital, which is needed to create and expand businesses. A week later, the president got the signature healthcare overhaul, which, in addition to failing to fix the problem in the healthcare system, for reasons explained by other CF&P videos, also added new burdens on employers and the economy through compliance costs and tax hikes. In July of 2010, the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act was passed. The 2,000-page bill gave regulators broad new powers that are seen as exacerbating the too-big-to-fail problem. Moreover, 2 years later, many of the rules are still yet to be written as bureaucrats have failed to meet the deadlines imposed by the law, leaving businesses uncertain and in the dark. Now let's look at the state of the economy today to see how these policies have worked. Unemployment remains higher than the administration projected while pushing for the massive stimulus bill, and much higher even than they warned it would be if nothing was done. But for many groups, the numbers are even worse. The unemployment rate for African Americans and Hispanics were both reported in the double digits, and the youth unemployment rate was staggering. These numbers actually understate the problem. A lot of people have given up looking for work entirely, and are thus not counted in the official unemployment numbers. Over 3 million people have left the workforce since 2008, and the share of the population participating in the labor force, meaning either currently employed or looking for work, is the lowest it has been in 3 decades. President Obama's approach to economic recovery has been top-down, and it has clearly failed. But there is an alternative, and it can be seen by looking at how a previous president dealt with inheriting an economic mess. Ronald Reagan took office during a double-dip recession, and unemployment was 7.5% at the time, versus 7.8% when Obama took office. But unemployment actually peaked higher in 1982 than in 2009, and the inflation when Reagan took office was a staggering 12%. In other words, both presidents inherited a bad economy, but the one Reagan took over was arguably worse. The difference is in how they responded and in how the economy recovered. Reagan passed significant tax cuts for all income levels and restrained the growth of both government spending and regulations. Reagan's pro-growth, limited government approach delivered results. Under Reagan, the economy grew by an average of 5.6% for the first 3 years from the bottom of the recession, and unemployment dropped by 3.8 percentage points. Inflation was also cut by 2/3. Obamanomics has clearly not fared as well. In fact, the Obama non-recovery really is a historic outlier, and not in a good way. In most recessions, the severity of the downturn determines the speed of the recovery. The charts on the screen show how employment both fell and then recovered during previous recessions. As you can see, deeper recessions are typically followed by more robust recoveries, and the effect on GDP is similar. The current recession has not recovered in such a fashion, and in fact has produced the worst rate of economic growth in any recovery in the past 65 years. During that span, there have been 10 recessions and recoveries. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, average real GDP growth in the first 3 years after those recessions was 4.6%. During the Obama recovery, it has averaged only 2.2% GDP growth, well below the historic norm. The president insists that, had he not acted, the economic outlook would be even worse today. But the historical evidence, particularly from the Reagan years, suggests that his policies have hindered rather than helped. The record of Obamanomics is truly dismal, and the continued hardships of the American people are a testament to his failed approach. I'm Audra Chu. Thank you for watching this Economics 101 video from the Center for Freedom and Prosperity. Be sure to share it widely.